Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Breanna Nicole. So today we're going to be talking about the difference between interpreting and translating because a lot of people don't know the difference and they're not really interchangeable, and this is going to be a really quick video, but I found that it might be helpful for you guys. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is translating because this is the word that is used so commonly. So translating in essence is just translating one language into another, something from one language into another. So like, for instance, documents, like legal documents or like medical records or something like that, that is translation. When someone says that we need a translator, it's supposed to mean they need someone to translate written documents. A lot of people use translator as someone who is actively speaking for someone or acting or serving as a conduit between like for instance doctor and patient, like a medical interpreter, but that is not the case. A translator only deals with like written things, only translates documents. That's what a translator does. A lot of like job listings, for instance, or just people talking on a day-to-day basis will say translator, that they need a translator, and that's not really what they mean because they need an interpreter. So an interpreter is basically someone who is orally speaking for someone who maybe does not speak English as a first language or whatever. They're serving as a conduit between two people. So my example is like a medical interpreter. I am a medical interpreter. I'm not certified, but I do work as a medical interpreter now. And I serve as a conduit between doctor and patient. So whatever the doctor says in English, I have to translate. You see what I did there? Okay. So whatever the doctor says to the patient in English, I have to interpret that, not translate. I have to interpret that to the patient in Spanish. And whatever the patient says in Spanish, I have to interpret that back to the doctor in English. So interpreters play a really big role, and translators too also play a really big role, especially in the healthcare field, because there are a lot of people who do not speak English, but obviously those people still need healthcare. They still need to be able to get their routine checkups, or they still need to be helped in case of an emergency and things like that. But a lot of the times people don't understand the difference between a translator and interpreter. So that is the difference. As far as medical interpreting goes, so since I've already brought that up, I will quickly talk about that. So I mentioned that I am a medical interpreter, however, I am not certified. Most hospitals want you to be certified to be a medical interpreter, but a lot of the times they will pay for you to take the exam or like reimburse you or whatever, and they give you some time to do it, but they still want you to have experience to medical interpret in an actual hospital. So a clinic, really, it's difficult. It's a difficult process because there's always something that they want you to do. But as of right now, I'm doing a medical interpreter job for Spanish, of course, at a free clinic. So the cool thing about free clinics is that a lot of the times they're pretty much ran by volunteers, so they don't really have as high as requirements as an already established hospital does. For instance, some hospitals want you to have 2 years of interpreting experience. A lot of free clinics are just happy if you can volunteer, and they're happy that you can help them where you can help them. So I started volunteering as a medical interpreter and also as like just a receptionist to practice my Spanish, because I was in a Spanish medical class, I think last year, and it was a requirement that we try to gain 10 hours, or well, not try, but to gain 10 hours in a clinical setting where we practiced our Spanish in a medical setting. And I ended up liking so much that I stayed and volunteered for a while, way past the 10 hours that I needed, and even way past finishing the semester because I liked it so much. And then I was recently hired to interpret for them and also still work as, a bilingual receptionist. So a lot of the times I do actually have to use medical vocabulary, and if you're wondering where I learned medical vocabulary, it's from this book, which I should probably show you guys. So this is the book that I use to learn my medical vocabulary. I won't say that it has everything because it's not going to, like, there's so many terminology, technical terms for medical vocab that it's not in this Spanish book. But this was the book that I used for my class. This is the Medical Spanish Communication and Culture 5th edition, from Robert Chase and Clarissa Medina. So this is what I use. It's cool because it's not just a book of vocabulary. It has like exercises for you to use the vocabulary. It talks about like cultural things, because when you're interpreting, you also have to understand that there are cultural differences and stuff. So it's not just knowing a second language and you interpret. For instance, in a clinical setting for medical interpreting, a lot of people talk about like caseros o remedios. Remedios? No. Like home remedies and stuff. And how they use home remedies because they don't really like medication, you know, that's been man-made. And a lot of the times it's like a cultural thing. So it's things that is more than just interpreting into another language or translating if you are doing written documents, because you do translate in the medical field a lot as well. But like I said, they have like exercises. They teach you how to use indirect and direct objects as well. This isn't going to teach you Spanish. So you should know a good chunk of Spanish when you're interested in becoming a medical interpreter, because you do have to use Spanish and you have to be able to use it pretty fluidly. But this gives you, I think, a good basis of medical terminology. What I did is I took every single chapter and I typed the words in on Quizlet, because you guys already saw my Quizlet video. If you haven't, I will link it down below. And that's pretty much how I keep up to date with my medical vocabulary. If I realize that there's something that I, for some reason, didn't have in the book, I'll just look it up and I'll add it to one of my lists on Quizlet and I'll study it. But this is the book that I'm using. So I still have to, of course, I don't have anywhere to put it. I still have to, of course, take the medical interpretation exam, and I plan on taking it through CCHI. And I will leave the link down below so you guys can kind of see what you want to do with that, see if you're interested in doing stuff like that. But it is pretty cool. And then another thing that I do want to mention is that it's not just medical interpreting. There's interpreting for like the courtroom, for instance, like legal processes and stuff like that. You also, I think, do have to be certified for that, but I don't know the whole process or logistics of stuff like that because I didn't see anything about the courtroom. It wasn't really my interest, but that is a thing. Or you can just be a community interpreter. I've seen job listings for that. I really don't know what that job entails, but it's probably not as high in vocabulary as a legal interpreter in the courtroom or like a medical interpreter, because medical interpreters, they interpret for doctors, all types of doctors, whether that be like dental, for surgery, or anything like that. Like they interpret for a lot of different situations, so they have to learn a lot of different medical vocabulary, not just in their second language but English, because if you're not a doctor, you're not going to know the terms really in English either, so you have to know what it is that you're interpreting, which is why it's so important to learn both the words in English and Spanish, which is why I stress that, which is why I think it's important. Some people always say no, don't translate, but if you want to be an interpreter or a translator, you literally need to know the English or the Spanish equivalent or whatever the other language is that you are studying for. So I really hope this cleared up the confusion for interpreting and translating for you guys, and also me talking a little bit about my medical interpreting job to give you guys more insight on that. For you guys who are curious, because interpreting, guys, is actually a career. So if you are interested in doing that, it is actually a career, and it pays well, if that's what you guys were wondering. If you look it up, I'm sure it varies from state to state, from company to company, and whatever your qualifications are and your experience, but for the most part, I've heard that it pays really well. So I really hope this video gave you guys a little bit of insight. I know it's kind of all over the place. This was unplanned, by the way. Good YouTubers plan their videos. I just do things spontaneously. But yeah, so I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video.